Well, let's discuss what's going on there in Syria right now with the political risk analyst Shwan Zulal, who's here with me. Thank you for being with us. What do you make of President Trump's decision to pull those US troops out?
I think the decision is not surprising in itself, because there was something is coming. Because if you look at the earlier in the year, about March, when Turkish troops went into Afrin, which is in the west of the country, in the northwest, the American troops stood by while the Kurdish forces were trying to defend their positions in the city, and they did nothing. So the Kurdish SDF, or the Syrian Democratic Forces, and the YPG were expecting at some point that the US will slowly pull back. But the way that the announcement was made and the speed of it is really surprising, and most people on the ground are fairly shocked at the speed of the President Trump announced it. And nobody really knows the detail, how this is going to happen, is going to be phased out, because as we speak, the fight against ISIS in Syria and Iraq is ongoing. And only today, there's been over 70, 80 strikes within Iraq against ISIS.
So when the President says IS has been defeated, that's not true in your view?
No, I mean, the President today in his tweets, he contradicted himself. He said, let others fight IS in Syria, referring to Iran, Turkey and Syria. So IS is definitely not defeated, because if we look at, for example, in Iraq at the moment, inside Iraq, IS strikes around 70 to 80 deadly strikes within Iraq every month. And this is done by researchers on the ground. Although Iraq announced the defeat of IS last year, IS is slowly regrouping. Although their attacks are small, but they're more coordinated. They're going more for coordination rather than the size of the attacks they used to.
But Mr. Trump is saying this isn't, effectively saying this isn't America's fight. You know, the United States can't be the world's policeman.
Well, if you look at the situation in northeastern Syria, the Kurds embraced their role as a partner with the global coalition to fight ISIS. And they were expecting a bit more from the US. Although history in some ways repeats itself, the Kurds have been betrayed in twice in the last decades, and probably twice in this decade, as some might say. What would happen now is, if the troops withdraw, I think the situation is not going to be as bad as some might think. But if the air support is withdrawn from the Kurdish forces in northern Syria, then the situation for the Kurds, first and foremost, will be very difficult. But secondly, with the fight on ISIS, because now Turkey is threatening to come in around 10 kilometers within the northern border in Syria. And if Turkey comes in, what we'll see most of the troops, the Kurdish troops, fighting IS in the south with the global coalition against them, withdrawing their forces and going north, and then ISIS will use those pockets, and especially those areas there are oil fields where ISIS, we know in the early days, were getting their finances from. If IS, Islamic State, get their hands on those oil fields, their finances will get in a better shape, and we've seen what they're capable of in the past.
Okay, Shwan Zulal, thanks very much for coming in to discuss all of that with us.